Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome back to Social Change Warriors, our political series that we started having with our new dear friend, Digital Warrior. And we're going to be having these on either Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, whenever he's available. We'll go live and talk a little bit about what's happening in politics in the last week since we were together last time, update you on some information that you might not know, or give you a little bit more of a deep dive on information that you have heard about but don't know that much about. So welcome back. I'm Catherine Page. I'm the founder of Social Change Warriors. We have been in existence for about 5 years, 6 if you want to count some of the other pre-recorded I did and some teaching that I did at USC, but we've been around and we decided to live stream in August. So we're happy that you're with us today, or if you watch us on the replay, that's fantastic as well. So I'm welcoming Digital Warrior back to the platform. Hello, my friend.
Hello, hello. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. It's been kind of a crazy 2 weeks. I think I enlightened you a little bit about what's been going on in the trial that I've been following with Amber for Karen Reed, the John O'Keefe murder case out of corrupt Canton. It's CC, corrupt Canton, Massachusetts. I feel so terrible for the residents of Canton and for the residents of Massachusetts in general, because they have got a lot of problems right now. It's just not good. So we are covering that case. So there's been a lot of news. There's been some squabbling and bickering going on amongst the actual supporters of Karen who believe she's innocent. And I inadvertently got in it. So didn't mean to, really didn't want to, but I'm in it now. So it's been an interesting week with some people coming after me and name calling and kind of internet bullying, I think we could call it. It might be a little stretch to say that, but definitely harassment in some way, shape, or form, and very unkind words being hurled at me for the last 2 weeks and hurled at Social Change Warriors, and all kinds of accusations, and not a single one of them are true. It's just really, it's been something. But, you know, like I said to you when we've had our independent chats, when you decide to go and do something like this and put yourself literally in the face of the world, because live streaming is everywhere. So right now, you and I could potentially be on with people in Canada, Mexico, Africa, London, Paris, France. I mean, you name it, we could be on with people. So you take a little bit of a risk when you put yourself out into the public eye, right?
Right.
So that's that. So something interesting happened right before I left Florida to come back up to my hometown of Madison. I received this very nice bulletin in the mail. So it says on it, Project 2025. We read Project 2025, so you don't have to. And I was curious, did you receive this in California?
No, I did not.
Isn't that something? So, and I take this back. This came to my mom's house. So this came to me at my mom's house. So this was something that was, it says paid for by ABPAC, www.americanbridgepac.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. On the back, it says Project 2025, the most well-funded and expansive effort we've ever seen from the conservative movement to overhaul the federal government. And that's out of the New York Times. And then on the back, it also says Project 2025 would jeopardize Americans' health. That's from Time Magazine. And then from the Washington Post, Project 2025 is terrifying. And you and I have been talking about this now for almost a month. And I read through this, and I'll point out a few things that are in here, because you are what I consider the overall head guy who knows about Project 2025. I've never met anybody in all of my chats politically with my Republican friends, my Democrat friends, my independent friends, my I don't give a crap anymore friends, because I'm sick of corruption and I'm sick of government. I have lots of talks with my old college buddies and my girlfriends from college and high school. And I just have a lot of people in my life that like to talk about policy and politics, and especially my fellow social workers. Hi, ladies and gentlemen from USC School of Social Work. I love you all. You're all great people. Dr. Charles Lewis, you're the best. Can't wait for you to meet Digital Warrior. We're hoping he'll be up with you here in the next couple of weeks. He has a standing invite to join us, and he is a fantastic individual. He runs a project out of Washington, D.C. to help educate social workers on how they can get involved in politics. And when we have him on with you, hopefully after the holidays, he's going to tell everybody about that and what a great program it is and how he runs it. It's called CRISP. And he's been doing that now for, I think, about 10 years. I'm not positive, but he's going to enlighten you all on the project. And I was fortunate enough to go to one of his boot camps that he had in Washington, D.C. for fellow social workers who had just finished with their master's degrees, trying to urge social workers to get into politics and run for office or work on a campaign, either or. So that was a 5-day program that I attended in Washington, D.C., where I learned everything there was to know more about how politics actually works, how the machine cranks, and what goes on in those Senate and Congress meetings and the subcommittee meetings and the subcommittees of the subcommittees. And most of the general public just doesn't realize how much there is that goes on in the Capitol and in Washington, with constant committee meetings going over bills that have been written by fellow senators and congressmen, and trying to turn those bills into law is very difficult to have them become a law. And then how that law affects us. Is it a federal law? And then how do the states feel about that versus the state law they have in their state? It's so much more complicated than even I ever realized. And so it was a really interesting boot camp. And Dr. Charles Lewis will come up here one of these days soon, hopefully, and educate us and tell us about it. So you took on Project 2025. Remind our viewers again why you did that.
Because I was terrified of it. I said, this thing is horrendous. And unfortunately, we're not able to unelect Trump from getting back in the office. So we're going to be seeing Project 2025 in reality coming soon. And that's pretty concerning. So I looked at some of the things in there, and it is a right-wing blueprint, authoritarian blueprint, where they essentially dismantle the government. And even if we were able to get back handle of the government, it's going to be so dismantled with no Department of Education gone. How are you going to reconstitute a new Department of Education? All the experts are going to disappear and go away. How are you going to reconstitute the EPA when all the scientists have all left and are doing? How are you going to do any of that kind of stuff? And
I have no clue. That I don't know. I would like us I would like somebody to start talking about this and tell us how we could do this.
You can't. I mean, you can't. If people leave, like it happened in the State Department in the first Trump term, where they just, like Rex Tillerson just didn't hire people and he let people go. And that's really what they wanted. They wanted to gut the State Department, which they did. So a lot of the guys who'd been there and gals who'd been there for 30 years with all that institutional knowledge left.
Right.
And now the CDC people are threatening to quit en masse because of Kennedy. We're going to talk about Kennedy as an appointment later on.
Right.
But that's really what they want too. So if you leave the job, you're leaving no one there. So they're not upset by that. We need people to stay, which is hard to do when you're going to take in a lot of abuse. But
yeah,
that's what's so concerning about this Project 2025, because they thought about it, and we're coming late to the game. And now you're going to hand over the reins to a madman and a very capable opponent who has every intention to end democracy. That's
not just one madman. You're leaving off the new sidekick that has been literally in the media on planes, trains, and automobiles constantly since Trump won the election. And he's on Twitter now in such a fashion. I read an article, my sister pointed me in this direction. There's 500 people that are working just as his Twitter voice. They're just constantly pumping out tweet after tweet after tweet. And if you take a minute, if you're on Twitter X, just check it out. I mean, it's happening.
Are you talking about Elon?
Oh yes.
No,
yes.
I blocked him. I blocked him a long time ago. I can't listen to him. It's
somebody has to pay attention to him though, and so I did not block him.
That'll be you.
That'll be me. So I did not block him because I wanted to see if there would be an uptick, which I assume there would be, because as we got closer to the election, his posts were gaining speed as quickly as you would read one. If you would put your phone down for 10 minutes and go get a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and come back, there he'd be again and again and again. So I'm like, okay, he's actually hired people to just 100% tweet 24/7. He's got tweets going 24/7. Now there's programs, obviously. I used to use one and now I can't remember the name of it. It's a program where you can write your tweets and you can schedule them to go out. You can schedule your Facebook post, your Instagram. You can schedule them all and write them all.
Like Buffer. I use Buffer.
Yeah, I've heard of that one, but it wasn't Buffer. It was one of the first ones to come out, like
there's a whole bunch
7-8 years ago. And now this was one of the first ones, and I can't believe I can't remember the name of it, but I used it and it was quite useful in the beginning, back when I first started Social Change Warriors. And when I was finishing my master's degree, I was working on a lot of campaigns for different kind of social work topics. And one of my campaigns was homelessness in LA County. And so I was doing a lot of a social media campaign. That was one of my assignments. So I did a social media campaign for trying to, how do we fix this? You know, what do we do? How do we help people? It's just such a problem that just never has any answers. So I used this particular platform. So I was setting up my tweets. I would sit down for like 2 hours, write out all my social media posts, schedule them to all go out. So I'm sure that's what's happening with this volume of Elon tweeting on his platform.
Yeah, but he's the owner of the platform. He can do whatever he wants. He doesn't need a software. He could just
write
a program that just does it.
But he's not just physically sitting there. But my sister read an article, and I think it was in the New York Times. I have to double check with her. She passed it to me, and now I don't remember. I've read so many articles the last 3 weeks. But that he actually hired 500 more people to work on the platform and keep all this information going out. They've had like cartoon pictures that he's created. These aren't people putting up memes. He's putting these up. His people are making them with him and Trump in like these costumes of like super war heroes, and you know, going constantly tweeting out about Dodge, you know, their new department, which isn't really a department.
It's also the name of his Bitcoin.
Right.
That's the reason he named it.
Oh, that's why it's that?
Yeah. DOGE is his name is Bitcoin. He's promoting himself at the same time he's promoting ending democracy.
Okay, there. Well, then, geez, he's even trickier and more devious than I even thought. Holy cow. Well, so anyway, that's why I've been paying attention, because the volume has increased even more now since the actual election, and even more this week. It's almost like, it's mind blowing. Like, you can't even believe this is going on. So I want to just go back for just a minute to Project 2025, because this brochure is fantastic. It's really well done. It's printed on really nice paper. It's colorful. It makes the consumer want to take a look at it and say, hey, maybe I need to pay more attention to what this is. So what I'm really concerned about is, why did this come out in the mail now? Why is this just arriving in the mail now?
It probably arrived before the election. I can't imagine they'd mail it.
I don't know. That's what I mean, but I don't think so, because my mom always, when I'm in Florida, she calls and tells me what my mail is, and she opens it for me. So she would have told me if this came. And I was in town for the election. I had to vote. I was in Madison. Then I went back down to my Florida place. So this did not come before the election.
Well, you know, I read today that there's a bunch of people whose ballots got sent to the wrong states.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So maybe this got held up somehow.
Well, you know what? I got to say, I'm a big Biden supporter, but him not getting rid of DeJoy was a monumental mistake.
Oh, for sure.
DeJoy and Merrick Garland were two disasters that should have been remedied. I mean, DeJoy said he was going to destroy. He took out all those voting machines and all the. And we kept them around for another 4 years to do it again. So all these ballots didn't get counted because they got sent to the wrong place.
Right. It makes no sense.
It does make sense. It makes perfect sense. He was part of the plan.
Yeah.
And Biden left him there. And that is forever to his detriment. He should have got rid of DeJoy when he had enough people on the postal board.
Well, why did he leave him there, though? That's what I don't understand. That's what makes no sense to me. I don't get it.
He lives in a way in the past, like camaraderie and, you know, these are my friends from across the aisle and all that nonsense. He's not really realizing that these are not your friends. These are your enemies. They are absolutely trying to destroy you and uproot your legacy.
Right.
And he just doesn't get it. And I just, you know, maybe because he's in his 80s and he's just not like, well, no, dude, they're really doing that to you.
No, you're right about that, though. As we get older, as we age, you know, it's more and more difficult to believe that anybody that we think is our friend or that we trust could do us dirty. When you're younger, friends come and go all the time. But as you get older, and if you have a core group of friends or people you actually really, have had on your side for a while, or even if you make a new friend, you have this you feel like you have this great ability to weed out people that aren't genuine because you've been around long enough. So when you do decide to take on a friend, you feel very safe that, yeah, I'm doing the right thing. I've got a good judge of character. I'm a good judge of character now.
The joy came from Trump. And Biden talked about getting rid of him, but he just never got around to it.
But what we don't know, though, is we don't know what was going on behind the scenes. I'm thinking this guy was schmoozing Biden and trying to make him feel like he's bipartisan, because a lot of them do this all the time. They try to convince you that they're much more to the middle than they really are. They lie through their teeth because they want to get you to do what they want you to do. Oh yeah, I'll come to terms with you on this, or let's meet in the middle. Let's go to the middle of the aisle on this, and let's have some committee meetings or whatever, whatever they have to do to try to bring the two sides that are just unwilling.
But it was a mistake, and it cost him, because there's people whose ballots didn't get to the right place, and I believe it was intentional. Well, I'm sorry, I don't want to interject that. That's
I think there's a very good chance it was intentional, because there's so much going on now. I mean, there were bomb threats called in. I mean, come on election day. Who do you think called those in? Right? Amber's offering to feed me. This is hysterical, guys. I'm staying with Amber today and tonight. And so she's asked, what do you want? She says, tell us what you want to eat. I love it. I wish you were here too, Warrior. I would get you something. So let me, so catch us up a little bit. I know that you had a couple of webinars. I'm going to tell Amber, I'm going to block my camera for a minute, tell her what I want to eat, and catch us up to what you've been up to, because I know you've had some really good webinars, and I know you were supposed to meet with someone today who is going to school you on this Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, the Bitcoin. I have a decent handle on the Bitcoin, but she has something to do with the Federal Reserve and how that all plays.
Oh.
Because there's a reason that all of the wealthy people, including Mark Cuban, have this thing about getting rid of the Fed Reserve and changing that. I want to understand how that works. So Trudy was going to help educate me about that. So I've been doing a series of webinars on the fourth pillar, what they could possibly do with a Trump presidency, and we're starting to see some of it already happen. Right. We're already seeing them do it. They're going to install all these crazy nonsense people who are going to disrupt things. You're going to have Kennedy over here trying to get rid of vaccines. You're going to have this guy over here trying to cut people's Medicaid, Medicare. You're going to have this person over here closing the Department of Education. You're going to have this person over here trying to get the army, the military to go against the people. All these people being put in place are going to be causing so much chaos. At the same time, you got the idiots in the House today passing the bill that would make it, if it passes, and it better not pass the Senate, I'll be pissed. It's being, I don't know the name of the bill, but the purpose of the bill is to allow the president to designate nonprofits enemies of the people, so and call them a terrorist organization. And the reason they're doing it is because what's going on in Israel. And Israel wants to call UNRWA, which is the one of the organizations that provide care to the Palestinian people. They want to call them a terrorist organization. I think that's a bunch of crap, but that's another story. But there's a lot of people signing up for that. But that means then that gives Trump the power to do that. So what happens when he becomes president and he starts calling all of our nonprofits, right? Like ACLU and all these other people, terrorists. Now we've given him the ability to go out and call them terrorists and to defund them. Do you see the downside of that?
Oh yeah.
You can't give somebody like him a hammer. He will bludgeon everybody. And I don't care if it's for Israel or not. That is a wrong thing to give any president the ability to say on his own that this organization, who I don't like, is a terrorist organization. Therefore, we're going to defund them.
Right.
Think about all the nonprofits he could do that to. Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
Terrorist organization. Just by designation, That's scary.
It's very scary because you're literally just playing with words.
It passed today in the House.
You're kidding.
So it's going to the Senate. And and remember, there's a lot of pro-Israel people in the Senate that might vote for it, and given the 60 vote threshold. And Joe Biden has shown all kinds of deference to Netanyahu. He might sign it, but they're not thinking ahead, which is what all the nonprofits have been screaming at. Do not sign this. You're signing our death warrant. So the people we're going to be relying on to help defend us coming in, you're going to give a madman the ability to defund you or call you a terrorist organization and send the Justice Department after you?
Right, because you can label anything you want if you've got that power to do so.
Antifa, yeah, would be a terrorist organization, all of them.
Right. Unbelievable.
So that's what the seminars have been about, like sort of gaming out what they can be doing, and we're sort of seeing it, unfortunately, building. Is that you were right about that? They intend to do that. They intend to throw so many things out that it's distracting and overwhelming, so that they can continue to dismantle the business of the country while Elon and Peter Thiel are making their bazillions on Bitcoin. Because if you've been watching Bitcoin, it's going up through the roof right now.
Yeah, I saw an article on that yesterday. I was curious if you saw that too. I think it was in the Washington Post, maybe.
Well, it's going straight up because people
everywhere.
At the same time, the stock markets, people are like, ooh, I better get out of that one. If the dollar goes away, people don't realize that's where all your savings are. That's where all your equity is. It's not in Bitcoin, it's in dollars.
Right.
If the dollar gets devalued, what do you think happens to your property? The $1 million home you've been having that you think you can sell for $1 million is now worth $250.
Exactly. And what's really terrifying about it is the general public, and especially the percentage of registered voters who didn't vote this time, millions and millions of them. And they're sick of all this. They're not even paying attention. I have talked to people that have not watched the news since the election. So if you're not going on social media and you're not watching the news, then all of this is just happening in real time and you have no clue it's happening. So,
that's part of the strategy, though, too. The part of the strategy on their side is called cynicism. They want people to just like, oh, it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to go about my life and let these guys battle. I'm not voting. It's not worth anything. That's what happened in Russia. That's what happens in Hungary. That's what happens to all these dictators. They just discourage you from even trying. And that's the part of the battle. Once that's done, you just can't get people, even on our side, they're like, oh, man, we got beat. We didn't win. And what's the purpose? Well, the purpose is that's what they want. Because their people are, their base is rabid. They're going to show up no matter what.
Yeah, it's just it's a scary time. I'm just so concerned that people are not taking this seriously. But what exactly do we do right now? Because I have friends that are very empathetic people and that are they're into politics, they're into policy. They've never been a fan of Trump, and now with everything that's going on with Elon, this is like territory we've never charted. This is uncharted territory.
It is totally uncharted, but you have to pay attention to what they're doing. Like I did a quick tweet the other day. I'm not a big know how to make videos, but I've been trying to help communicate what I'm doing. There's something called pink slime. Have you guys heard of pink slime?
No.
Pink slime is what they've been doing. So if you look on my handle, and it's called Digital Warfare 1, not Digital Warrior 1.
Oh, that's right. Digital Warfare 1. I'm sorry about that. I'll correct that. Amber and I always call you Digital Warrior, and you are a Digital Warrior, but you're at Digital.
It wasn't available at the time. So
got it.
And this is really important. And if you think about it and you go back 20 years, because I wasn't paying attention to this 20 years ago. I was probably more clueless about this kind of stuff. But
Me too.
I'm focused on it now because I'm sort of seeing what they're doing. Right. Yeah. So they've been helping destroy the local newspapers, news outlets. They've been buying them, shutting them down. So there's less and less local news out there.
Right.
So perfect example, what is called pink slime. Chevron, the big gas company, bought a local newspaper in Richmond, California, which is where a big refinery is. Right.
Okay.
If you drive by there from Sacramento to San Francisco, it's like halfway between the two. It's just spewing poison and stuff like that. But since they're the local newspaper there, no one hears about that. All they're hearing about is the promotions, all the great things that Chevron's doing. They don't hear about the spills and the destruction, and they don't hear about the kids getting sick in their communities. They don't hear because they're the local news, right?
Right.
And the San Francisco Chronicle doesn't really cover it as much because they're trying to make their ends meet. So it just gets, so that's what pink slime is. And it gets even more insidious than that.
Jeez.
Uline, the owner of one of these, he's a billionaire. He had something called pink slime. If you look at my tweets, you'll see I had some images of it.
Mhm.
They have been doing these websites that look like real news. Like one's called the Catholic Chronicle. They use the same font of the Catholic Church, so
Whoa.
looking like if you just go there looking at in cursory, you're like, oh, that must be what the Catholic Church says, but it really wasn't. It was a organization funded by billionaires that made to do it, and they've been doing this for the last couple of years. These little websites that look real, but they're fake, and they have real news in there about what's going on locally. You know, this team did that, and this school and this business open. But then they throw in some stuff like, and Biden is, you know, costing you $30,000 more when he's doing these transgender sex things and all the abortion, and they're doing abortion on demand. So interspersed with your news that you're getting from this so-called news organization, Chevron did the same thing, and there's this whole thing called pink slime. There's this organization, media something or other, it's in the post. They have over 1,000 sites, all being funded by billionaires to act like the news that you don't even see.
Wow.
That's what happened this last election. And they usually do it news sites, but what they did this time, they used their millions and printed versions. So I thought that's what you're going to show me earlier. So they sent these newspapers that look like newspapers, right?
Yeah.
Like your regular local newspaper with local names,
Right.
with local stories, interspersed with Kamala Harris supports transgender youth getting changes at school. Just all this crap. So that's huge. And that's part of what they did. That's the whole effort. Remember we talked about Ziklag before?
Yep, Ziklag. Yep.
Part of what they talked about doing is that they were going to push this information out, and now we sort of see how it happened. The number I haven't seen yet is how many voters did they challenge? Because one of the things I identified a year ago is they're going to challenge all these voters. These voters aren't going to know they're being challenged until they go to vote, where they say, you can't vote, you've been challenged. Oh, I didn't know that. So they're just going to go home. So people like Mark Elias, who's our voter champion attorney, he's not even going to even get a chance to remedy that because that person never voted. They stopped them before they actually did their vote. So we don't know how many people that was, but I assume since that's part of Ziklag's major mandate was to discourage people from voting, I imagine it's going to be a large number.
I would think so, but how would we even? Well, I suppose if they'd have to do what are the exit polls, right? And they could ask them.
No, they didn't vote.
Oh.
Just like, give you an example. Amber, let's say Amber had a situation where she was moving from one location, whatever. So she thought she put all the paperwork in right, and then she.
Well, she did.
I'm just giving you a different example. Just using her name.
Yeah.
So she goes to go vote, and they go, "Oh, sorry, somebody you don't even know challenged your ability to vote, so go home." And Amber goes home.
Yeah.
So her vote has never been entered. There's nothing to challenge. There's nothing like that. She just goes home. How many people did that happen to?
Oh boy. The only way we could find out is you'd have to put out a huge campaign to get people to come forward and tell us. It'd be the only way, right?
No, right? They're not that involved, right? They just, oh, forget it. I'm just too much work. I'm not going over just whatever they do.
Right.
But that was part of their whole overall plan. And it sounds and looks like it was successful.
Well, there were so many of those plans that you uncovered that you kind of took us to school about when we met like 3-4 weeks ago before the election, when we were talking about these groups
Because I saw
disinformation.
what they were doing, right? I saw what they were doing, and they weren't the
Yeah.
only group. There was many of those groups. They were all working together. So what can we do? I don't want to be all negative and pessimistic, right?
Right. Did you see what I just wrote? I just wrote they were sending out newspaper-looking disinformation to communities, and then what happens then is that then people go on social media and then they regurgitate it onto their social media platforms, this disinformation that they got from a newspaper-looking source, and then
Mhm.
it just spreads like wildfire. And that's how a disinformation campaign is growing. That's how
Yeah.
it surfaces, and that's how it survives.
So here's something we could do. I've been thinking about it because we can't sit back. And unfortunately, it looks like we're going to be out of power. And
Right,
even when we were in power, there wasn't enough being done to empower the little people, right?
right,
I think they
right.
should have done a better job of educating people like us so that we can be on the forefront of that, but they didn't. Another mistake. But so why can't we do the same thing? Why can't we do something similar? Why can't we create an online presence where we put together news, right? And then we filter in our message to them. And we need warriors like ourselves to
Right.
take that and print it out and distribute it in your neighborhood and put it at the Starbucks and take it to the grocery store or wherever you're going to do, leave it sitting around
Libraries. Yeah.
library. Just we got to do something
Right.
because
Where people in their communities can see it, and just combat the disinformation, because right now combating the disinformation on social media is a complete waste of time, because everybody that agrees with you, you're preaching to the choir, and everybody that doesn't agree with you, they're too far gone. They're not going to listen to you. They will not go off of what they are.
but here's how
You
they
have to
win.
reach the non-voters, the people that and people that aren't on social media.
But here's how they win though, and that's why we have got to think of something different. And the something different has got to be outside the box thinking. They own the platforms. Elon bought this platform to do this thing. It's
Mhm.
not it's if you look at history
Oh, of course
historically,
he did.
he did it to do this thing and it was part of his plan to spread disinformation. So how
Yeah.
do you do what they do on a consistent basis? What we have that they don't have is we have the ability to have feet on the street, right? Why can't we continue to build up our like what we're doing here, building up our new media systems where we're getting out information to people in different ways that are not controlled by other people. Um, but we got to get other people to I mean, let's think about the power. If you took 10 newsletters and Amber took 10 and other people took 10 and we handed out, that's 40 people are going to get the news that they would not have gotten before. And if we
Right.
can get an army of people doing that, and these guys focus on the swing states. They didn't send it to California or New York. They sent it to Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona. That's where the slime went to. They were focused on who they were sending the slime to.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, why would you send the slime to a state that has been red for eternity, or a state that's been blue for eternity? You're not going to waste your time. You're not going to do that.
Now, you might do it to a district in there if there's a district
Right.
to get.
Right. Maybe a district. Right. Correct. So both my sons are very into this whole movement of a third party, and that we just most Americans want change, and that's why Trump became so appealing to so many people, because a lot of Americans are tired of business as usual, the two standard parties talking their talk, yakking their yak. It seems like the same old song and dance every 4 years. The president gets in, changes everything the other president did, and depending on if they have control of the House and the Senate or not, and then they bicker and argue and fight, and there's disinformation and there's lies being spread by both parties, and then what's that old saying, right? Wash, rinse, repeat, and then it's just going. This is how it's been going on for years and years and
I
years.
disagree with that. I disagree with it for one reason. Not that that's not the perception, but that's
Right.
the reality. The reality is that Democrats actually try to accomplish something. The Republicans' job is to obstruct everything and to lie about it. And then they have right-wing media who comes up and propagates their lies, supports their lies, reinforces their lies, and drives that lie home over and over and over and over again. The
But see,
Republicans
I'm more
have to almost
cynical than
know.
you. I'm a little more cynical than you, Warrior, because I believe that there are dirty deeds going on both sides of the
Oh
aisle.
yeah, I don't say that.
I believe there are politicians on both sides of the aisle that could give a crap about me, that don't care about me. They are
Agree.
narcissistic individuals they are going for the power and the greed and the fame and the money. It's like you said, everything that has going for power, going for greed. Murder has to do with money a lot of the time. The whole means motive opportunity thing, a lot of the time it has to do with money. So even in domestic violence situations, which I talk about on Wednesday nights, that almost always has to do with money. They don't want to give up their house. They don't want to give up custody of their kids. They don't want to give up the money in the bank. They don't want to split it with their wife. So in the majority of cases, it is man on woman. There are some domestic violence situations where the woman is the perpetrator, but it's a very low number compared to the men. And so money is the root of all evil. It's not something that was, it's in the Bible for a reason.
The Bible says the love of money was the root.
Well, the love of money, correct. And that's exactly what the problem is, though, is that you get certain personality types are driven to be in power. It's in their DNA, and they're not just going to take a job and have a job. They're going to have a career because that's in their DNA.
I am not saying that there's no corruption on the Democratic side. I'm saying that the Democrats endeavor to do things that are good for people. For example, that they are trying to do the child tax credit that gives parents the ability to get an extra few $1,000s for your child. That's not something Republicans do, right? They aren't ever trying to do that. They're trying to cut everything, and they're trying to give that money to the
why is that? Because the common voter, the common public, the general public who might not be leaning either Democrat or Republican, they might have feelings on both sides of the aisle. They may be fiscally conservative, so they may lean more towards the conservative side, and they may be very much into social programs. They may be very much into social work type programs. So they're leaning towards the liberal side. So how do we make sense of all this for that voter? Because that's the voter that we lost this election. That's why Trump is about to become the president again.
No, we lost because of disinformation. We lost because they got everything mixed up into trans and immigration. The immigration's coming to kill you, and Biden's open borders, and just nonstop reinforced over and over. The battle is between the haves and the have-nots. That we have to, because why are these people who live in West Virginia and all these poor states, Mississippi, Alabama, why are they voting to get rid of their own health insurance?
That just doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
These seniors in Florida, why are they voting to get rid of their own Social Security and their Medicaid?
Because I don't think they believe that's going to happen. That's the thing. I don't really think they believe it's going to happen.
Okay, but and the reason they do it is because Republicans have them so wound up on trans. Like this, they have a new person who got elected, who took over the guy who ran for Senate in Texas, Colin Allred.
Right.
She's trans.
Right.
So now, of course, Republicans said, "Hey, we're going to pass a bill saying you can't use the bathroom of your, of your I don't know what to call it, your deemed sexuality. You got to do it for the sexuality that you were born at birth."
Right.
Causing all kinds of issues. And they're going to use that as their plank from now until 2026. I promise you. All we're going to hear about is how we're withholding American values by not letting this trans person get it. They're not going to talk about making your life better. They're not going to talk about any of that stuff. They're going to get people distracted over here. Look over here. Look over here. Look over here. While we gut everything else. And it's all the Democrats' fault. That is the battle.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong, because this has been literally going on for my entire life of my entire life of voting. And I just don't understand why. I guess the problem is they're going after the Christian vote. No disrespect to Christians. I'm a Christian. That are saying that, it's a sin, that it's in the Bible, that you cannot change your, if you were born a man, you're a man. If you're born a woman, you're a woman. They already, the far right Christians already have enough problems with gay and lesbian and, LGBTQI. And then you enter trans into the conversation. And then if you are so into your religion, so Christian, and that you don't want to welcome anybody that's different than you, that is listening to their own bodies, making their own choices about their own lives, then you're going to, you're not very Christian. And you're never going to vote on that left side of the aisle, because if that's your main platform, that's what you're most concerned with is abortion and lesbian, gay community, then, and the trans community, then there's nothing I will ever be able to say to you. Because
that's how they win. They divide. They're dividing you on immigration, on race, on LGBTQ, on climate, on whatever they can do. They're never
science,
ever
climate and science,
talking about how to make your lives better.
Right.
It's like they're coming to get you, the trans, the gays, the immigrants, the blacks, the whatever.
Hispanics,
it doesn't matter.
The Mexicans.
Someone's coming to get you. Be fearful. I alone can protect you from the evil horde of people coming to kill you. That's what we're fighting against. So it would not have mattered if Kamala would have said, I'm going to give each person, take away every person's debt, all this kind of stuff. They were so fearful of everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's the disinformation. That's the pink slime. That's all the stuff that Elon's been doing. That's why he bought Twitter, so he can spread his disinformation to people inside their brains.
So when I was talking to Sean on the golf yesterday, we were talking again about means, motive, opportunity. So Elon's no different. He has a means, he has the motive, and he has the opportunity because of the money, because of his situation that he's put himself in life with his brains. I'm not saying he's not smart. So the goal is to continue to help so that people that in his tax bracket, in his income situation, so that he can continue to have this army around him. Because that's kind of what he's doing right now, is he's, along with all of his rocket ships. And I mean, it's so surreal to talk about what is going on right now with the president-elect flying around in airplanes with these disingenuous men, because I didn't see any women on the airplane yet, as far as I know. I've just seen a bunch of the men on the airplanes with him. And that's how we're going to bridge into his cabinet picks, because I want to go over a few of them before we end our hour tonight, because I have to do my next live stream. So but before I do that, I just want to update my crime people, my Thursday night crime folks, because since I am going to spend time with the Ellen Greenberg case again tonight, I just want to let you all know that there is still a lot going on out in America, not just the cases that we have talked about. And Ed Byers has been on the show now 2 times. He's coming back on again in December. And he was part of the collection of folks in Indiana that were able to call out the sheriff that was embezzling money and wreaking havoc on Clark County, Indiana. Well, now we have this article that came out today from Fox. It's from Fox News. A Trump-supporting anti-trans, anti-gay Republican was elected commissioner of the county where this particular person grew up that posted this on Twitter X. He won despite being in jail on election night. So this guy's in jail on election night, and he's not in jail for some little petty crime. He's in jail for sexual assault in Las Vegas, Nevada. And he still wins his election. And it has now come out that he assaulted, it has come out that the woman he assaulted was his daughter. So these are the folks that you're electing in our states. And this is in the middle of the country. We've got the Democrats committing corporate crimes and crimes against people, as far as we know, in Pennsylvania with the Ellen Greenberg case. That's a lot of Democrats, as far as we know, are involved in that cover-up. You've got Democrats involved in the cover-up in Canton and in Massachusetts. You've got Republicans involved in 2 cases now in the cover-up and corruption in Indiana. And that's just the ones that are out in front of our faces right now. I am sure if I wanted to spend the next 5 hours in the next few days, I could dig out some more states where I just want people to understand this is not a Republican or a Democratic issue. the corporate crime that's going on right now in this country involving the cops as well, involving cops, turning them into dirty cops, or they were already dirty humans and then they decided to become cops, is not just on one side of the aisle or the other. I've seen a lot of tweets about the Karen Reed case and slamming the Democrats, and their Democrats are dirty. Well, guess what? The Republicans are dirty in Indiana. They're behind both of the corporate corruption and the police corruption going on, and the political corruption. So it's equal, people. This is a time, a perilous time. We have a lot of corruption going on in our governments and on our police forces in the entire country. And I want to know, what are we going to do about it? We have to.
We're gonna nominate Matt Gaetz and other people to be our attorney general.
Exactly, and that's what the bridge is that we've got all this corruption and crime going on in all these states, and then Trump, in his wisdom, is going to bring on Matt Gaetz, who has been associated with trafficking teenagers for years. And most of you don't know that. And those of you that are going to stand by your party, regardless of what, it's country over party all the time for me. If someone in my party, and I'm a Democrat, if someone in my party is committing a crime and supporting dirty cops and covering up murders, I don't care what party they're for. They have to go down. They have to be arrested, booted out of office. We need justice for all the victims. And now we've got Trump, who's just, he's sort of looking like every day more and more, he's just a mouthpiece now for Elon. Elon wants to run the country, and he wants to run it through Trump. And if people don't see that, they're not paying attention.
Yeah.
So he's probably in Trump's ear with all of these announcements. So let's start with.
Well, yes and no. One of the top Russian spies has been publicly announced who he wants as well. I don't know that guy's name. It's one of those Russian names, but.
Yeah, I don't know who that is either. I've got the list here of most of them. So, but let's start with Matt Gaetz. So he made the news today because he withdrew. And of course, he put it all over Twitter and all over social media that, oh, I withdrew. I'm protecting I'm protecting President Trump. There's too much drama going on right now, but I didn't do any of this. But they really think we're stupid. They really think we're stupid that right before the Ethics Committee report is going to come out about his dirty dealings with Joel Greenberg, who's in jail for doing the exact same crimes, and Matt Gaetz was along with him the whole way. Those of you that live in Florida know I'm not making this up. We were getting this in the news way before it hit the mass media, way before it went anywhere outside of Florida, that there had been rumors circulating and allegations. Nobody's making a lot of this stuff up when they say they have proof, and they did have proof. And Joel Greenberg's in jail because they had proof, and he took a plea deal. He took a plea deal for what? Nobody's been arrested yet. So what was the plea deal? What did he give them, right? So if we don't have any arrests yet, then what's going on? Why is this slimy, scummy guy who they had so much evidence against, he was making false IDs for teenage girls and trafficking them across state lines to Alabama and Georgia? Why are we giving him a plea deal, Florida Department of Justice prosecutors? So if you did that, right? So there's got to be a reason that Joel Greenberg, who got away with this nastiness for years and is one of the most corrupt people they said to ever live in Florida, and the stuff he got away with was diabolical. I mean, he was so sociopathic and narcissistic that he kept doing the crimes. And even though he was being told, hey, they're building evidence against you, you're going to get arrested, he didn't believe it. He just kept committing crime after crime until they had enough evidence to finally arrest him and then offer him a plea deal. And I don't even know, but he didn't get enough jail time, I can tell you that much. And Matt Gaetz is his buddy. He was pictured in the news in Florida back in 2009, 10, 11, 12. I was tweeting about him long time ago, like, Florida, wake up. This guy is crooked. Why is he in government in Florida? He should be stripped of his law license. He's hanging out with Joel Greenberg, who already had accusations against him, and they hadn't arrested him yet. So in Trump's wisdom, of course, because Elon's in his ear, yeah, let's help Matt out. He's been loyal to us. He's my loyal buddy. Let's get him, let's give him the top job in the Justice Department so he can then resign from Congress so that they can't get him.
Yeah.
And they expect that we don't see that they expect the general public is so stupid and so into our own lives that nobody's paying attention to what they're doing. And then you had to know that this was coming, that he was going to step away, because he's clear now, so he can step away. He doesn't have to do it. Or if they don't end up.
I would like to get Merrick Garland under oath to answer some freaking questions. How did you not prosecute this guy?
Right.
How did that get away? He's been the one, him and DeJoy, like I said, oh my God. Those two.
Right. And so it's laughable, but it's not funny. It's so not funny. So now two of the young girls who were involved in this, in these parties that they would go to, and some of the evidence was that people took photos. It's like, hello guys, wake up. People took photos of them and they sent them to rag magazines, right? And then everybody's like, oh, that's fake news. That's not true. These have been doctored. That's AI. People will come up with any excuse in the book if it's their candidate or if it's on their side of the aisle. If Matt Gaetz was a Democrat, oh my God, he would have been, the Republicans in Florida would have lost their minds over this. If Matt was a Democrat. See, it doesn't matter, people. It doesn't matter who these guys are, because they're really not in your party. They're in their own party. They're in their party of narcissism, their party of power and money. They're not really Republicans. They're not really Democrats. The guys that are committing these crimes, and women, they're not in your party. So stop supporting them. Stop voting for them. They don't give a shit about you. And I'm sorry to lie. I mean, sorry to swear, but I'm not lying. They don't care about you. This is all fake bullshit. These guys that are at this level, all they're trying, they crave it. They can't go a day without attention, without craving their power. And then they get their power in numbers because they group together and they commit these crimes together. They're not committing them in a silo. Okay. So Matt Gaetz is the worst of the worst of all of them. And I don't know what's going to happen now. I swear if he gets elected, I mean, if he continues to go on and somehow gets himself back into this and Trump allows him to go before when is that? January 20, what day is that? Senate committee approval.
But he's nominated Pam Biondi.
Oh no, that's who he's done now.
Yeah, he just did her today.
She's
pretty bad too.
She's not as bad as Gaetz, but let me tell you, the stuff that's gone on in Florida surrounding her and the cases. Oh, yeah. I got a lot of files on her from Florida news that the mass media never knows about. That's the beauty, guys. When these guys are and women are in your state, do your own research. Don't just believe the disinformation train. If there's a person in your own state and there's allegations, they're there for a reason. Nobody is profiting off of trafficking information up. Nobody's profiting off of that. These two girls have attorneys now. They don't want this in their life. Nobody wants this in their life. And so if you choose to believe Matt Gaetz, and you can't believe Joel Greenberg anymore because he admitted everything. He took a plea deal. There was so much. He's so stupid. He was using Venmo to pay a lot of these girls to come and to these big parties, and they were doing drugs and having sex. And that's how stupid these people are, because they're so narcissistic. They don't think they're ever going to get caught. So they're not literally stupid. They're so into themselves that they'll continue to break laws and continue to break laws. And if we just ignore it and only vote our party because we have to feel like we have to vote for this person because they're in our party, regardless of how slimy or scummy or horrible they are. And that's a big, big problem right now in our country. We have to stop doing that. And when I did my election night, where it was just me and you guys, me in the audience, and I said to all of you, everybody needs to be bipartisan. If you want to lean Republican for certain things that you care about, if you want to lean, enough is enough. we're one country, we're one people. We have to get along. We have to pass laws that benefit people that are disenfranchised, people that are struggling, that are poor, that don't have enough money for gas or groceries or rent, can never buy a house because the interest rates are so high and you have to have such a huge down payment now to buy a house. Single people with careers can't buy houses right now. I hope you guys all realize that. There are a lot of us that are single for reasons. Either our spouses have died or we divorced our sorry ass partners. So we may be single for our own reasons and we may have had careers our whole lives. But right now in this environment with the cost of living and the cost of mortgages and interest rates, we can't save enough money to get a down payment to buy our own house. In 2024, almost 2025. Yeah. Those are the things that Warrior was talking about earlier. These are the things we all have to come together as a country, as a people. And Kamala was saying at the entire election, many Democrats have said this to you. Many independents have said this to you. We have so much more in common than we have not in common. But we get in our brains that I have to be this, I have to be that. I can't vote for this person. Why? That, again, how do you know who this person is? Why do you trust them? Why do you just blindly trust someone that decided to run for office because they had money, because they had people behind them with money? And like Warrior said, Christian groups, because they have agendas. Very wealthy, powerful people have agendas. It's called taxes. Yes. You can't just believe anybody that runs. You have to try to do your own research. And if you don't care, then you don't care. Then you're just one of the people that doesn't vote. And then how does that work out in the long run for America? If everybody stops voting, we're already down so low. I don't know how we can go much lower with voter turnout in our country. It's embarrassing because we are a free country and we are allowed to vote and pick our leaders.
Well, you know, what's really sad is I saw Elon up there today talking about, hey, maybe we should get rid of the tax rate and just make it a flat tax. A flat tax is a regressive tax, meaning it costs the poorest people more than it costs the billionaires. For example, if you charge everybody, let's say 10%, 10% of Elon's $300 billion, whatever, it's not going to be a lot. But you charge somebody else 10%, that's a lot of money when all you got is $1,000 coming in, right? That's a lot of money. And now if they're successful at getting devaluing the dollar and making it based on the Bitcoin instead of the dollar, well, Elon's going to say, well, I didn't really make $300 billion. I only made $10. So here's your $1 because everything else is hidden in the ether. That's what Bitcoin gives them the ability to do, is to hide all their money forever. Forever.
That's insane.
That's what's up. So who else do you want to talk about other than Gaetz? Because I know we're running out of time. I
know, and our time together always goes so darn fast. So I want to ask you, because I have a hard time talking about this guy, Stephen Miller.
Oh gosh.
How in the world does someone who has said more racist comments on the air, people, this is not fake news, it comes out of his mouth on the air, get in a position to be the deputy chief of staff?
That's who they want. That's who they are. That's who they are. We need to start talking plainly and honestly.
Yeah.
If you're in a room with Nazis and you're running around with Nazis, perhaps you are a Nazi.
Right. Show me you're a Nazi without showing me you're a Nazi. That's Stephen Miller, people. I don't have the deck up tonight, but this guy has been showing you who he is. Maya Angelou, famous quote, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time.
Yeah,
but
he has been. I mean, he's an immigrant. He's a Jewish immigrant.
Mm-hmm.
His grandfather or whatever came through from the Holocaust survivors.
Right.
So now they want to boot out everybody else who's trying to make. Anyhow,
it's maddening to me. It's maddening. I mean, he and Gaetz are my two biggest like what the F, because it's stunning. It's stunning that they are going to be put in these positions of power. And then you've got Pete, good old Pete.
Oh, the Secretary of Defense guy.
Yeah, Defense Secretary. He has no more training and qualifications for defense secretary than you do or I do. I mean, are you really kidding me?
They don't want him to have that. They want him to be an outsider so that he can go around the chain of command, right?
Right.
So the chain of command is you got all these generals who've been around forever, who there's camaraderie, there's that now the Secretary of Defense can go around those guys and promote captains to generals, right? And all of a sudden now you have new people who are a little bit more sympathetic to right-wing politics. And that's why he wants them. He doesn't want someone who's going to do it the right way. He wants somebody who's going to do it the wrong way.
Right. Well, we've already talked about Elon and is it Vivek? Is that how we say his name? Waswamy? It's Wamaswamy, right?
I don't know. I don't even try to explain that. But he said something interesting too. That both him and Elon said something interesting. If you've been paying attention to it at all, there's a leader out of Argentina called Javier Milei, M-I-L-E-I. I haven't talked about him before, but he's important to talk about because he has been in contact with Elon a lot lately. He sent an announcement to President Trump, congratulations, da-da-da. Now, he won his election last year, barely. And he immediately came in and started cutting 20, 30%, closing agencies, departments down. People are starving. He closed the food bank lines. He closed the Department of Education. He's done all that kind of stuff, right?
Wow.
Just like and that's what he's saying is that Project 2025 people have been working with him about what to do. So we sort of see what they intend to do. So Vivek, whatever his name is.
Yeah, I think it's Vivek.
Posted the other day that, hey, and he posted Javier Milei's tweet saying, hey, we should be more like these guys. And then just today they promoted that they said that thought a 20-25% cut across the board is warranted. Our U.S. budget is $7 trillion. So if you take 20% of off, let's say that's 1.5 trillion off.
Right.
Who's going to be cut? They always talk about cutting, but the biggest pieces are military, Social Security, and Medicaid.
Right.
Medicare. Those are the ones. Health benefits for the elderly, and military.
Right.
And education. So they cut education, and they want to cut the poor people. So imagine a 20% cut across the board. That's what they're talking about doing.
Yeah.
That's what they want to do.
But people aren't listening. They're not getting it. They won't get it till it. No, they don't, and they won't get it till it actually does happen to them. Till they lose something that is here's saving them.
But here's the piece that I've been trying to drive home, and it's really hard to drive home with people. But I'm going to try to explain to you here. They have a plan to blame all that on Democrats and Biden. Period. So when people start losing their health insurance, when people start getting capped out on their Medicaid and Medicare benefits, and all those things start to happen, they get booted out of their assisted living facility because they're in a lifetime cap and they don't qualify. Whatever the thing that happens, we need to be there in their ear saying it was the Republicans.
Yeah.
It was not Biden. It was not Harris. It was not that. It was the people you voted for.
But this is what happens, though, is Warrior, the disinformation campaign just starts all over again, and they find a way to not take responsibility for it.
But I'm telling you, it's coming.
Yeah.
And we have to do something different.
Right. Something different has to happen. There just has to be more community involvement. There has to be more like town hall meetings that have to do with bagging the disinformation campaign and wiping it out. Because we just don't have enough people holding up the disinformation and saying this is fake, because that's why they started their tagline, fake news, because now everything you say that comes out of your mouth that isn't what they want to hear is fake news to them. Or you're using AI. Everybody's getting accused of using AI now for everything. Now we don't know. Now we're convincing people that they can't trust anything they see.
Which is why it gets back down to the local, which is why we should do something different, which is let's do our own content. Let's get it down to the bottom line level. Let's talk to people in the streets. Let's do these kinds of broadcasts where we're educating people about what's going on.
Right.
Because any policy that Harris would have came up with, any interview she could have done, it would have not mattered one bit, because
No.
they weren't running on any policies.
Mm-mm.
Trump didn't have anything to say. He's just, the immigrants are coming to kill you. They're eating dogs and cats and
It's
all that nonsense. I only have a concept of a plan of the health insurance. I'm just going to take away your health insurance, but I don't have any plan for it.
How am I going to take it from
So
you?
people
But I'm
are
going
like,
to take
"Yeah,
it
let's
from
vote
you.
for
Yeah.
that."
Yeah, I know. I still don't. I still can't understand it or believe it.
It's
And
disinformation.
it's just different. Disinformation it's evil. That's the thing, is that when you purposely put out fake information with an attempt to sway the general public to your way, it's not just unethical. There's not a big enough word for it. It's downright evil.
But it is effective.
It is. Evil is always effective.
So we need to do something different. So anyhow, is there anybody else you wanted to talk about today? I
Thank
know
you.
we're running out.
No, there's more. Yeah, there's more we can talk about. We can talk every week. We can do this every week from now up for 4 years. You and I can meet every week for 4 years and try to educate people the best we can. But because that's all we can do. And that helps me feel better, because I feel like I'm doing something. So I thank you so much. I'm so happy I met you on this platform. And next week I'm off because I'm having my left knee joint replacement surgery. Yippee. Can't wait. So I'm completely off next week, but I will be back the next week. Ed Byers is going to join us next Thursday. So maybe that I can get the two of you and just get you both in the same chat together, and you can update us on political news. He can update us on crime in Indiana. And I want to get his opinion on a couple other cases that I have now been given. People are starting to call and reach out to me and ask me to broadcast out their missing person or their loved one that's been murdered and they have no justice. So we have sadly, we have new murder victims to add to our plate next week. And so I'll be glad to be back with y'all, with you and Ed and any other, commentary that we want to come up with next Thursday.
All right. Thank you guys very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Warrior. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
Okay. Goodbye. All right, everyone. Good night for now. I'm about to jump off and get this lovely sub sandwich that Amber was so kind to get for me while I'm her guest tonight. And then I will be back on the other thread. Amber said, don't forget about me. I'm talking about you right now, Amber. So I'm going to hop off here, go grab something to eat really quick. And then I'm going to be back on the thread that is in our library that is for Ellen Greenberg. We're going back to the Ellen Greenberg case tonight for a little bit. And then I'll also be letting you know about some other victims that we'll be covering in 2 weeks when I'm back from my knee surgery. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight on the replay. If you decide you want to listen in about what we have to say about Trump and his cabinet, and just thanks for joining us on our other nights. We're happy to have you anytime. Social Change Warriors is out for now on this thread. Good night, everybody. I'll be back in about 10 minutes on the Ellen Greenberg thread that you can follow us on YouTube. Thank you so much. Good night. Just us.